first came to, when I first, excuse me, I'm getting interrupted here.
Go ahead.
When I first came to Holland, I asked my daughter, well, where should we go? Because we like to hike. And so she started taking me around to the various parks, and I discovered that there were an awful lot of nice, lovely parks in Ottawa County. So who else to tell us about them except the director of Ottawa County Parks and Recreation, and that's Jason Chamblin. Jason has an associate degree from Hocking College, in which he did recreation and wildlife, and then he got his bachelor's degree from Ohio University and in recreational studies. So he's going to tell us this morning about some of these lovely parks that we have in Ottawa County. Jason, it's up to you.
Thank you. So a little bit about myself too. I think I have an interesting background. So I was born and raised in Southern Ohio, and on a little farm there, and just grew up out in the country and just loved the outdoors. And it's incredibly beautiful there, and the parks kind of came natural for my profession, and I've always worked in it. I'm one of the probably few people who stay in their career the whole time, and I've worked in some form or another. So I worked for the YMCA coming out of college, and then municipal parks and recreation, and through different jobs, and then was in county parks in southwestern Ohio. And then once we had a family, we started vacationing in West Michigan. And although we lived in this little town in southwestern Ohio called Oxford, home of Miami University, we loved it there. Great community to raise a family. The natural resources there weren't really significant. There's a lot of agriculture, and the parks there weren't incredible. Although we were a natural resources based agency in a county park district, and I had a really good job, it wasn't anything special. And we were doing some neat projects, but we started vacationing in West Michigan and just kind of fell in love with it. And the first time we came, on the way home, I talked to my wife and I said, wow, wouldn't it be neat to live there sometime? So, and we transplanted our family to southwestern Ohio. So we didn't necessarily have ties other than our friends. So in 2019, John Schultz retired, and a lot of you, if you've been around a while, you might know John, and an incredible director, and really did amazing things here. And Ottawa County has, I think, the best parks and natural resources in the state, hands down. And so I was lucky enough to be chosen as the next director, and I wear a size 14 or 15 shoe depending on what type of shoe I'm trying on that day. So if anybody's wondering, yes, I try to fill John's shoes, but it's hard every day. But so I moved here and started about 2 years ago. So I had about seven or 8 months before COVID hit. And I was learning the job. I tell people it was kind of like learning drinking from a fire hose. And I was learning a new community, new parks, as well as just a whole new governmental structure, because there are quite a few differences between Michigan and Ohio. And then we had a pandemic and everything came to a screeching halt. So we'll talk a little bit today about just the background of Ottawa County Parks, how it started, where we are today, and some of the neat projects we have, as well as just what we've learned with the pandemic. So So historically, the county parks were underneath the road commission, and there were 9 parks between 1929 and 1980. And these are just a few of the pictures. So North Beach, Riverside, and I love that one in the middle of Riverside where you see the cars right up to the river, and then Tunnel Park. So, and their focus was taking the trash out, mowing the grass, and that was really it. And the road commission still has a couple roadside parks here in the county, but the county commissioners really saw the natural resources value here in Ottawa County, and they knew there was a road there was a section of the code that allowed them to form a parks commission. So the county commission did that in 1987, and they formed a commission that allowed them to have a board of commissioners, and their focus was to enhance the quality of life for residents and visitors by preserving parks and green spaces while providing natural resource-based recreation and educational opportunities. And one of the first things that they did was, so that was in 87, then in 88, they did a natural features inventory and really worked on locating the highest quality undisturbed natural areas in the county. And that led to the future land acquisitions that has guided our parks and greenways since then. So there are 15 different areas that were identified: Rosie Mound, the Kitchell Dunes, the Grand River Marshes, the Grand Valley Ravines, and so on. So and some examples of those natural area communities found here in Ottawa County are the Great Lakes Marshes, the Coastal Plains Marshes. And as I've learned about Ottawa County and the natural features and the natural resources here, and we look at our land acquisitions and our properties and our parks, it tells a story. And when you look at our maps and our park maps, you see all of our parks are along the greenways. And we really, as an organization, are a large natural resources-based, land management, conservation-based agency. So first and foremost, that's what we are. So we focus on natural resources, conservation, land management, where the highest and most sensitive natural resources are. And that has been focused on that study that was done in 1988 that identified those most significant natural features. And then we identified those, put together a strategy, and have been working on connecting and purchasing those and then protecting those ever since. And it was around these greenways, really. So you see the Grand River Greenway, the Lake Michigan Greenway, Pigeon River Greenway, and Macatawa Greenway. And it's funny, I tell you that, right, I started at the end of June of 2019, and I was like 3 months in before I connected. Nobody told me that. So as being the new guy, people knew it, but I kind of had to piece things together on my own. So when I tell the story, I try to start with that and explain it to people, because I think it's such a key part of who we are and what we do, in explaining what the greenways are then. So a greenway is a corridor of connected green space with ecological significance, typically near an urban area, set aside for recreational uses or environmental protection. So we've talked about the 4 that we have here, and they're incredible. So the Grand River Greenway is the longest river in Michigan, plus the Pigeon River, and then the Macatawa River, and then obviously Lake Michigan, which, but we'll talk about all of those and some of the different projects that we have. So Lake Michigan Coastal Greenway. And I think everybody who probably goes to one of the beaches at Lake Michigan ends up going to one of our parks. The Pigeon River Greenway So Hemlock Crossing, we were talking about that as we get started. So you can see in the background here, there's the river, and it provides opportunities to paddle. And the Macatawa Greenway. And then the Grand River. So, and from the beginning, the Parks Commission was focused with trying to balance public access with nature preservation. And that's always, whether it's conservation, it's always the focus. And for land managers, that's always kind of one of the challenges, because we have these incredible natural features, but you want to provide access for the community. And then how do you kind of balance that preservation with public access? It's an ongoing, always an ongoing conversation. So, and when you look at the past year with the pandemic and the use and how important our trails and parks are, it really has been an interesting year to reflect on that. So the first 10 years or so, the Parks Commission really focused on renovating the existing 400 or so acres of the parks that they inherited from the Road Commission. And then the following years, from 1987 till the present, was really focused on expanding and improving the park system. So, and kind of with that focus of balancing public access with preservation. So one of the things I like to try to remind people is, we also want to remember we're one of the fastest, well, we actually are the fastest growing county in the state of Michigan. So it's always important to focus on that and remember we want to continue to balance that growth with the green and how important that is to our health and the quality of life. So luckily, the county passed the parks millage, and they have subsequently renewed it twice. So the first time was in 1996, and then renewed it in 2006, and then 2016 with a renewal rate of 72%. So all along, they've had this goal, unofficial goal, or thought of approximately 7,000 acres of parkland. And with that third of a mil, understanding that third of a mil then would be able to help operate, and then long-term, those funding sources would be able to help maintain and operate that amount of land. So as we kind of move forward, the goals have been to preserve and manage parks and open space lands, which protect and enhance significant landscapes and natural communities to benefit both people and wildlife. Provide high quality outdoor, natural resource-based recreation opportunities for residents and visitors of all levels of ability. Promote understanding and appreciation of the natural and cultural history of Ottawa County and awareness of commission-oriented facilities, programs, and services, and ensure organizational sustainability. So where are we today? We have kind of hit that goal. We're about 7,200 acres. We're about 40 properties and a little over 150 miles of trails. So we have those 4 greenways, and you can see these are kind of the parks spread all over the county. So this is where I like to take a little bit of a break and see if there are any questions, kind of where we are.
Nothing in the chat yet. So if anybody has a question or comment they want to make right now, feel free to unmute yourself.
All right.
Here comes one. Is there a hiking trail from Holland to Grand Rapids?
So we are working on the Macatawa Greenway in conjunction with multiple partners. And that will connect in with the Fred Meyer Trail that connects in with the Upper Mac natural area. So at some point in time, that all will connect in.
Great, thanks. That's it.
Yep. And we actually have a slide on some of that coming up.
Okay.
So that's great. We'll move on. So just to get into some of our greenways a little bit more and just some updates on progress. So the Grand River Greenway that has been, has some of the most opportunities. We've been focused on the 36-mile long Idaho Explorers Trail, which will connect Grand Haven to Grand Rapids. It'll complete 13.5 miles of new trail. And we have various segments of trail that are already complete, utilizing some segments that are already been constructed by different units of government. So this is Grand Haven Township. But we have a little flyover from a segment that was completed last year out in Georgetown Township. So we'll look at that. So this is a video that gives you more about what the Grand River Greenway and Idaho Explorers Trail is. So let's see that. Oh, I apologize.
Two great cities, Grand Rapids and Grand Haven, both on the banks of the Grand River, where urban meets nature. What if we could connect these two iconic cities? Imagine if we could explore the beauty along the Grand River. With over 8,000 acres of land, filled with hidden bayous, vast parks, and deep woods. What if we could connect it all? Explore it all. Spending a day, a weekend, or even a lifetime discovering something new. We can build a trail to connect it all, for everyone. This is the vision for the Grand River Explorers Trail. Explore for a day, explore for a lifetime.
So again, I had been here for several months before I saw that video, and I've been trying to understand this idea of the vision of the Grand River Greenway. And I was like, oh, I wish somebody would have shown me that on the first day. So I try to include that one also as we talk about kind of the idea and the concept of what it is. And so we are working on 3 different trail segments and greenway trail segments in the county that we're doing the same type of activities and connections. So that's the largest that we're most heavily involved in actively right now at this time, but we have 2 others that we'll talk about in different various stages. So a little bit about the specific projects. We have 4 projects that are really heavily under design and various stages of design, permitting, soon to be either bid out for construction, and hopefully would be construction underway within the next 12 months or so. This segment we were hoping would be constructed this year. We were waiting on permitting with Eagle. There's some wetlands. So this will connect Cottonwood Drive. This segment would connect Ottawa County with the Kent County trail system that then would end up connecting all the way into downtown Grand Rapids and Millennium Park. Pretty exciting because it would connect in with Georgetown and our Bend Area Park, or open space that is there along the river. And we'd had it scheduled to start construction this year. With construction prices, there is quite a bit of lumber for boardwalk in here along the river. We didn't necessarily mind the holdup for some permitting, so we delayed bidding that out with the hope that if we do, the lumber prices will come down and bidding will, the bids will come in lower. So we don't actually mind. One of the times we don't mind a delay on that. So because I think everybody anticipates some of those prices coming back down sometime soon. But this one is ready, almost ready to go. So so this is what we call the Stearns Bayou connector. So if anybody's familiar with Mercury Drive or Green Street, Robinson Township, we have 144th, and then there's the 144th Avenue boat launch. State boat launch is right here. So if you go this way towards the west, you go into Grand Haven. This is a Grand Haven Township trail system, and they've allowed us to connect in with that and call it part of the Idaho Explorers Trail. We'll be crossing over the Stearns Bayou and that bridge and having a separated bike connector on the side of that, and then getting down Green Street. So that's pretty exciting for us. If anybody has ridden that segment or has been out there, you know that's the one segment there that there isn't trail. I rode it earlier this year, and I can say people in cars don't particularly respect bicyclists. So it is a need, and it's one of the few areas that there aren't separated either bike lanes or trails. So it'll be exciting to see that done. So this is what we call the Eastmanville connector. So this is 68. So Eastmanville Bayou is on the west side of 68, and then on the east side, and then would come up and connect with 60th Avenue, and then would come in and connect with the Allendale segment. So we've been working with Allendale Township on the route through their kind of jurisdiction, and then would connect in with a segment we completed through there into Grand Ravine. So, and then on the western edge, you see we're working with the state on segments through the Bass River recreation area. Those routes are a bit more fluid as we work with the state in different areas to connect on these different private properties and areas. So this is Grand Ravines, and this is Grand River Park. We're able to secure the final easements we needed this past year to finalize this route. So now we're finalizing plans, engineering, and permitting to be able to connect this. And then there is a Consumers Energy parcel here that will need some licensing, but now that we own these easements, we'll be able to make this connector. So this will be an incredible stretch. I don't know if anybody's been to Grand Ravines or Grand River Park, obviously, and the GVSU ravines, it's incredible to be down there along the river, and this will be just a magnificent section of trail along the river. So we're really excited to be able to get that one under construction. So any questions about kind of the trail progress or constructions on those segments before I get into this next update?
Nothing typed in yet, Jason. So if anybody wants to ask a question quick, go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right, there'll be plenty of time to, no hurry. So this is another project in conjunction with the Greenway that we worked on. So this is part of, and we'll talk about it a little bit later if we get to it, but it's just an exciting part of the Greenway and our coastal corridor there around Grand Haven. We partnered with Audubon, and it was funded through the Wege Foundation. We brought in Audubon to evaluate the ecological significance of the coastal corridor along Lake Michigan, as well as the Grand River Greenway coming in to the east from the coast. So, and really they were studying the existing data already out there and compiling all of that into one document. We understood how important this area is with the wetlands, the impact that the marshes and wetlands already have, as well as the dunes, not just on biodiversity, but as well on our local economy and tourism. So really, we were looking to Audubon to help as a national leader pull all that information together and compile it into one document. And we'll actually be presenting that to our Parks Commission and just putting that on record this next week. So pretty exciting information. So confirming what we already knew and kind of suspected, that and this is the area looking out towards Lake Michigan, but and you can see it's just these incredible wetlands and marshes that are incredible birding habitat and some of the most significant habitat, not just in West Michigan or Ottawa County or this part, and not just in the part of the state, but in the country really. And so you can see the area of focus. So the corridor is recognized as one of the richest areas in the state, and greatest conservation concerns for biodiversity. And it's above average for climate resilience and lies along a globally recognized importance for birding area. So, really, the next steps and focus will be to pull together a group to address kind of corridor-wide issues, develop a conservation action plan, try to fill in the gaps in the watershed management plan, define and prioritize the ecosystem creation and restoration. Focus on systematic monitoring of the bird activity, seek a higher level of protection for the priorities when it's possible, and create an outreach strategy to educate the public about the corridor. And really what we want to do is establish a higher level landscape level management plan and pull the agencies and stakeholders together and really look at this as a regional concept, and focus on it as a regional concept and understand what that value is. And then try to educate the public about that and focus on that as the priority that it is. So really exciting information in this document that we'll be sharing actually just next week with my Parks Commission. So and Audubon, I think, has it out, or will have it out on their website as well. So great information. So that's one exciting thing that we've been working on. So another is just out towards, we were talking about the Bend area and connecting in on the other side of Grand River out by Georgetown, and just inside the county limits is the Bend area. Just to give you guys a little taste of it, you can tell I like videos because it's hard to see and put it into context. So the Bend area, we completed last year an acquisition. It was actually 2 acquisitions with grant funding that, let me back up, so I can see my notes, sorry. It brought us to a total of 421 acres. And that had gone through, I think, 4 different acquisition phases. And we currently were awarded a trust fund grant for another for just under 200 acres. So it'll bring us up to a little over 600 acres if we're successful. And it will secure the inland lake. And it just will be this incredible large regional park that's surrounded by one of our most densely populated areas in Ottawa County. So it's been part of the long range plan for over 20 years and is really a pretty exciting project. So if the acquisition does come through, the next kind of step with that would be we would start to undertake a master planning process. There's a concept plan that we have, an initial concept plan that's been used since the very beginning, but we would kind of go back to the drawing board and look at the needs and what could be done with that park. So, but we'll know more. We are working with it is a old gravel mining property, and we're working with the current owners, and it's a trust fund grant. So there's still a lot of work to do with that. So, as we have been working on the Greenway, one of the things that we've realized is it doesn't have, as we work on it through the different units of government and through the different regions, there isn't one cohesive identity. There isn't one cohesive brand. And so before I started in mid 2019, the Parks Commission and the Parks Foundation actually pulled together a group to help start working on that Grand River identity and do an identity study. And they engaged an advisory team to try to help outline what we would call an interpretive plan. They were led by a company called Encompass, socio-ecological consulting led by Marty Holdren. But they were made up of stakeholder agencies like Elgro and Grand Rapids Public Museum, MSU and Extension, as well as different stakeholder groups, citizens, historians, as well as representatives from some of the local tribes, really to try to focus on what is the Greenway and what could it be in the future, and how to kind of pull those themes all together to have this meaningful connection from one end to the other. And you know, it was really interesting. Here's a picture. So I think we had representatives from 3 of the different tribes also, and they met multiple times throughout about an 18-month period, and they kind of came up with, they decided it was too broad of a topic to really come up with a formal interpretive plan. But they still gave us recommendations, but it was much broader, and it was kind of wide ranging. So focusing smaller programs to major infrastructure, and that we could use an arts master plan, a community engagement plan. We needed spaces designed for Native American community ceremonies, places for gatherings, places where you could gather traditional plants, remote experiences and 24-hour access. So things like camping or different activities that folks could do anytime. Major infrastructure needs, so community nodes, a welcome center, as well as collaborative research or cultural center with connections to tribes or GVSU or other universities. So really need a much broader community engagement effort. So it's a great document. We have it out there. We felt like we needed to keep working on what we're doing as the Parks Commission. We also want to keep connecting the different communities together. So our Parks Commission is actually is going to take forward and do a resolution supporting the Grand River Greenway this next month. And then once we do it as a Parks Commission, we'll take that on to the Board of Commissioners. And it's just a very broad concept of, you know, this is a valuable asset. And these are some of the reasons why it's utilizing these documents as background and support for that. And then we'll take it on to the Board of Commissioners and then our other stakeholders in the communities trying to pull them all together. And then we can start focusing on some of these other initiatives. But really, it is so broad out there, and some folks really are unaware of these different initiatives that are going on. So we're trying to start kind of at ground level and start some of that work at the front end. So I'm about ready to move on. Any questions on the Grand River Greenway kind of as a whole? I do have, depending on timing, we could have some time for other follow-ups at the end.
Yes. I have a question. Am I on
can
audio?
hear you.
Yes, I see you
Yes.
nodding. All right. Is
Go
there a connection from the trail on that new highway 231 to get over to the Grand River? Is that part of the
Yes.
Greenway?
Yep. So when they built the 231 bridge, that was a specific part of that construction. So there's a trailhead on the south end and on the north end, and then it connects in. They call it the Spoonville Trail. It connects in with the North Bank Trail. So you can actually ride a full loop there. And once we make that connection, the Stearns connector, you can do a whole loop. That was what I did. It was like 36 miles. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. How long do I have again?
We go till 11, so we've got lots
Okay,
of time.
great. We're doing great. Okay. I'm a parks guy, so you have to, yes. Okay. And we'll have plenty of time for questions. So we were asking about the Macatawa Greenway. So this one has been in work for decades as well. And the Macatawa Greenway, there was a group of nonprofit partners who were working on connecting the Macatawa Greenway. In ways, it's even more challenging the Grand River because it's so much more developed. And connecting those properties and the land acquisition can be so much more challenging. But we've got great partners with the different public agencies as well as the ODC in that area. And so we have Paw Paw Park and Adams Street Landing, an Upper Macatawa area that we're all trying to connect, as well as then the Fred Meyer Trail, Kanawha Trail, there in Zealand Charter Township. So one of the projects we have done, just recently done, you can see the property here, highlighted in green. So this is Hawthorne Ponds, and the property in pink we purchased the end of last year, which will allow Holland Charter Township, they are going to, or at least in their capital plan, will build a restroom building and some expanded parking at Hawthorne Ponds. But it also allows us to, you can see it will allow us to make this connection to what we call Middle Macatawa. So, and you can see these different areas here that this is Middle Macatawa managed by ODC, and then here, this is Upper Macatawa area. Although there's already paved trail networks, and you can see this. Now this has not hit the public, so you guys are getting a sneak peek. So this is kind of the same area, and I know it probably doesn't show up well. It wasn't necessarily designed for a PDF. We were actually, I was just in a planning meeting with folks with the township and ODC yesterday, and I grabbed the map and I converted it and threw it in the slideshow. So this is the Hawthorne Ponds area that we were just talking about, and this is the property that we acquired. So Holland Charter Township is anticipating building a new restroom building of some sort and utilizing this area for expanded parking of some sort. So there's already a trail and a connection that runs here, and then with their bridge here. So there is a sidewalk and a trail there. But our hope is once this is done, then we can connect. So Ottawa County Parks owns this property. And our hope is that then when they do this at the same time, we can apply for grant funding next year. So this will take a couple years, but apply for grant funding, build this as a pedestrian mountain biking type trail, not paved necessarily, and then have a crossing here. And then come through again, maybe a crushed limestone or natural mode surface trail. There would have to be a bridge that's constructed, some boardwalk, I think, in here. And then I believe another bit of bridge here. And this area would, and there were some technicalities that our landscape architect and planner were talking about getting underneath, that if you ask me about, I probably don't have the answers about connecting in with Upper Macatawa. But the point being, I'm trying to relay by showing this is we are making and working on this project as we speak. So yes. Any questions? Because I know that this was one that's probably closer to a lot of you all. And again, this is not this is a very conceptual plan right now.
Jason, are these trails all concrete or hard surface?
So the trails here along Adams Street are, I believe, either asphalt or trail, paved or concrete with a bridge that goes over the highway. These that are the dashed lines would be a natural surface, which would not be paved or hard. They would be more of a mode or earthen or maybe a stone surface. In some areas, there might be some boardwalk, and over the river or wet areas, there would be bridges.
Say, Jason, do you
Yes.
have the access under I-196, or is that a bridge going over 196, or what's the status of that? This is Rick Bosch.
Hi, Rick. Do you mean here?
No, between Ridge Point Church and Hawthorne Pond.
You mean here, down here in the
Yeah.
south?
Yes.
Well, that's not part of this project that's identified yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Hi, Rick.
Nothing in the
Any
chat, so I think you're good to go on.
Okay. So this is another greenway. This one is really, and we have lots of partners who are working in conjunction with it. This one, though, is much more developed area and presents with the highways and the railroads actually present much more technical challenges in building. So, yes. So just a few other updates in the Macatawa area. I think most people are familiar, or I would think, the historic Ottawa Beach area, and then there's the Ottawa Beach Marina. So that was the completion of the Part 12 master plan project, which is Ottawa County Parks project. So this is a drawing of it, and then this is a picture of it. So I was lucky enough, I think I started in June, and I think we dedicated it in July of 2019. So, and I was about a month on the job, all the work had been done, and I got to try to pronounce a lot of Dutch names in public, and fumbled through that. So I'm a little bit better at some of the Dutch names, but and this is our first full year of operations where we haven't had high water or some sort of pandemic. So we're hoping for a good full season for 2021. It's been incredibly busy down there, and really successful, even with a partial season in 2019 and the odd season in 2020 was successful. So yes, so that was just one, I guess it was August 2019. So this is one that is an interesting update. We have been working on it since not long after I started. We met with Consumers Energy. So we own several properties, and I am officed in the Fillmore complex, which is in Pigeon open space, but we're further to the east here. And you can see Pine Bend, and then Hemlock Crossing is further to the east. So we have multiple properties here along the Pigeon. And then it connects, our goal would be then to connect in and build a trail system along the Pigeon. And then this property is Consumers Energy property that we're proposing this trail system. And we've been working with them. And then some of you might be familiar, there's this little, here by Pigeon Lake, there's a Department of Natural Resources boat launch, and I wouldn't really call it a park, but there's this little park on the east side called Sheldon Landing. And so we've been working with Consumers Energy and Sheldon Township on working on that. This is a drawing of what it could look like in the future, and then connecting in with a natural surface trail, at least for now. And then potentially maybe something more. And the original thought was that the power plant was going to be decommissioned in 2040. So I think about a week or so ago, the word came out that it was going to be decommissioned in 2026. So it was interesting. A couple of weeks before that, we'd been trying to set up a meeting to kind of finalize some of these plans, and they hadn't been very responsive. And now I'm starting to wonder if that was the reason. So, but we're still really excited because, you know, this is where that picture at the very beginning of those folks kayaking, this is really a fairly incredible scenic river with potential for hiking and kayaking, and really just a great possibility to improve access there to that river. And then long term, once the power plant's gone, it's just another great potential access to Lake Michigan. So although it wasn't on our radar for several decades, closing earlier certainly wouldn't hurt. It would be a pretty exciting opportunity. So, all right. So those are kind of our major greenways. So a few things about the pandemic. And I think most people have been out to the parks, right? Everything closed down and there wasn't a whole lot to do. So, and we saw this huge uptick in usage across the parks. And there was actually a point early on when, and I was going to try to find the report. We use, the county has a subscription to a service that monitors social media. And in April of 2020, the Ottawa County Parks was like the talked about topic, and not in a good way, because people were calling for us to close our parks. And some parks were closing, and some county parks across the states were closing and just shutting down because people weren't quite sure what to do. And we were meeting on a daily basis as a management team and trying to address, what the CDC and local health departments and state were saying, and try to adjust. But the things that we were seeing were, there's this huge influx to the parks, and people really wanted to be there. So one of the things that Apple and Google did was they started tracking and sharing mobility data, and they used benchmarks for several weeks before the pandemic. And there were weeks after that we showed instances. Ottawa County were leaders in the state, where we had easily many instances, well over 300% increases in visitation rates. And most cases, a lot of cases, we were leaders in the states in park increases, visitations. Now also we've got incredible township parks, and we've got incredible state parks as well, right? We've got two of them, the most visited state parks in Michigan. So we can't claim them all for our county parks, but we know we've got the best county parks too. But what was pretty incredible were there were a couple weeks in there that we had the highest increase in visitation in the world as well. So almost up to 500%. So people love our parks here, and it's pretty incredible. And it's because of the natural resources with Lake Michigan and those greenways. And so, as we move forward and what we do, and understanding we're the fastest growing county in the state of Michigan, and kind of how we proceed in the future, and kind of looking at those natural resources and that incredible importance to our residents and the economy and the quality of life here. It's really important in how we plan into the future. So, but that was just some really good data. It's all out there, and it's pretty interesting to look at. So, when we were one of the most talked about things on social media, and we had all this pressure, we were like, well, what do? We closed some of our trails and made them one way. We reduced parking spots. We made a video, a COVID etiquette video. We made signage. So here's our COVID etiquette video. Hello, my name is Jason Chamblin, and I'm the director of the Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Commission. And I'm here today to talk to you about COVID-19 and parks etiquette. We all know we've got the best parks in the entire state of Michigan right here in Ottawa County. And we want you to continue to use them while helping us keep them safe during this pandemic. In these difficult and unprecedented times, we know that nature and exercise is more important than ever. Being outside is good for our physical, mental, spiritual health and well-being, but it's critical to be aware of your surroundings and stay safe. With 40 properties totaling over 7,000 acres and nearly 150 miles of trails, we know that there's plenty of room for us all to explore our parks safely.
Before you even get out of your car, you can help by checking the parking lot. Is it full? If so, please visit a different park or come back later in the day. You may have noticed some of the parking areas or spaces have been blocked off. We are doing our part to ease overcrowding at the busier parks by limiting parking. Please don't make your own parking spot. It's important right now to practice social distancing when you're on the trail, which means staying at least 6 feet away from other park visitors who are not in your household. 6 feet might be further than you think. This is 6 feet. You should also keep in mind that hard surfaces in the park like handrails, interpretive signage, and benches are not disinfected. You should also avoid petting or touching other visitors' pets.
We all have our favorite parks, but some of them are pretty busy right now. Here are some staff recommendations. Conner Bayou is part of the Grand River Greenway. It offers gorgeous views, hiking trails, an area to launch a kayak, and it is a trailhead for the accessible Idema Explorers Trail. From here, you can bike or walk the 4 miles to Riverside Park. Upper Macatawa Natural Area is an excellent place for hikers, cyclists, and birders. An accessible 3-mile segment of the Macatawa River Greenway Trail stretches all the way through the park. Stearns Creek Park offers a mile of creek frontage and great hiking through diverse wetlands, picturesque ravines, and tracts of older growth forests. This park's rich history and high-quality habitat make it a true treasure in the Grand River Greenway. The Muscatawa Trail is a 12-foot wide, all-season path constructed on an abandoned rail line between Marne and Muskegon. You can walk, bike on, and ride horses along this trail. Pigeon Creek Park has over 10 miles of trails that wind through old pine plantations, mature deciduous forest, and through bottomland forest along the Pigeon River. It's a great place to hike and bike.
There's so many things you can do in an Ottawa County park. Hiking and biking with your family are great options, but you can also
see what wildflowers are blooming, listen for the songs of birds or frogs. You can fish and kayak or fish from a kayak. Just be sure to stay a fishing pole's length away from other visitors. You can even do some stewardship work. Help us pull garlic mustard, an invasive species we are trying to eradicate. Bring along a plastic bag, pull the whole plant out with the roots, and repeat the process until your bag is full. Make sure you seal the plastic bag and throw it in the trash when you're finished.
Just a few quick reminders. Avoid busy parks. Practice safe social distancing. Don't touch hard surfaces. And take only photos and leave only footprints. Thanks for doing your part to help us keep the park safe. We can get through this together.
So we came up with a lot of ways to try to work through COVID-19, and it certainly was unusual. And it's funny to look back on it that we had to do a COVID etiquette video, but we really, there was a lot of pressure to close the parks, and we were kind of fighting to keep them open. And how do we justify keeping them open? And trying to go to great lengths to show that we were trying to educate the public. And so the examples are at Rosie Mound, we had restricted almost a third of the parking but people were parking, there's a school just down the road, and they were filling up the parking lot at the school and then walking along the roadway to get there. So we worked with the schools to close off that parking lot, and they would move the barricades. So we worked with the sheriff's office then to make sure that those were closed during the weekend. So things like that, but it was constant, but it was ever changing. So a few residents' quotes, just as it's easy to focus on the challenges, but just a few highlights. I'm so proud of our beautiful spaces and parks. We've utilized the parks almost daily, among the best in the country, vitally important to the health and strong community. These are just a couple. We had hundreds. So it was, it was really important. And it was also interesting at the same time, there was a lot of research and information that came out about how important the parks were to public health, and spending out time. And we've all known it. I've always known it. Many parks professionals have known it. It just became more amplified. And so, and as we've talked about equity and inclusion, it really has been on the forefront, and how important nature and neighborhoods and the impact of health, and especially for people of color, and the equitable access for families of color are. So this was a study by National Geographic, and just really quickly to try to summarize is, you know, more families with children have less access to areas with nature. Non-white families with children have less access to areas with nature. And then low income non-white families with children have even less access to areas with nature. And it just goes on to show. So as we, a park system, you know, continue to look at our natural resources conservation-based planning, we also need to look at how we can focus on our inclusion and our engagement, and kind of meet those needs as well. So, and work with our other partners and community agencies to do that. And what's our role? So you know, during the pandemic, there were a lot of conversation about our health care professionals, and police officers, and all the different people who are kind of the heroes. I like to say special thanks to, you know, our supporters at the top, but also all of our staff. So many of our staff didn't miss a single day of work and reported every day to work, keeping the parks open and safe, while balancing all the stresses everybody else was dealing with at home, with loved ones and school with their kids, or people who had healthcare issues, and trying to balance all of that. And really it was tough. And then our administrative staff, who also would be answering all the phone calls and trying to adjust to those challenges. We were, you know, residents who had their reservations canceled, or their weddings, or their anniversaries, or birthday parties, or graduation parties, or I think you call them open houses here. So, and every day we were coming in and trying to come up with creative solutions. Like, these are my two operations guys who help with videos. And so really I call them the invisible essential workers, right? Behind the scenes, keeping the parks open and safe, because without them, we couldn't have done it. And it's easy for me in my office to do what I do, but they were out every day, kind of grinding away, trying to work really hard, and still balancing everything they had going on too. So special thanks to them and all of our administrative staff, who really put in lots of work and extra effort trying to help provide all that for everybody. So we have lots of great staff and incredible team. So and so one of the positive things we're doing when we talk about equitable access, and one of the positive things that we're doing with Hope College, is we just were awarded a Mellon Community-Based Partnership Award. So Arts in the Parks partnership with Hope College, to forge a partnership with Hope College and Ottawa County Parks in the greater Holland area, to invigorate arts communities, nature-based programming for underserved communities. So our staff and us, we will create programming where people from all backgrounds can identify and pursue connections between nature and artistic expressions. So you have to begin with much more of a modest goal and learn about how we can meaningfully attract underserved to the parks areas. So July is our kickoff. More information will come. We just got the award and we're still working through the contract and the details, but we're really excited about that. It'll be a 2-year project. The first year will be really community engagement, and then the second year will be focused on implementation and the programming. So, and it will all be in kind of that Holland area. So we're really excited about that. Another initiative that is upcoming, the Board of Commissioners at their last commission meeting proclaimed or resolved, I guess, that July is Parks and Rec Month here in Ottawa County. So hopefully you all received your brochure in the mail recently. If not, you can get one here or at our nature center. And so just promoting health for all of our citizens, building healthy, active communities and aid in the prevention of chronic health, and promote water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, ensure ecological beauty, attract visitors from all over the world. So, and we'll be have a whole slate of activities and more promotional information we'll be pushing out about our ongoing activities for Parks and Rec Month. So upcoming. We also have a really neat partnership activity coming up. It's called Spokes Fighting Strokes. So Michigan recumbent trikes on the Grand River Greenway. So that will be the end of this month, so July 25th. It is specifically a group that work to help stroke survivors rehabilitate, and recumbent trikes are a great way to do that because they're so stable, and you can use them either with your feet, but you can also have them adapted that you can use them with your hands. So Dan, who is one of our main presenters, is coming in actually from out west. So he'll be coming in and bringing in a bike or a trailer with all sorts of trikes and talking about it. And we have several different stroke survivors who will be on hand too, and a bunch of different partners who will be talking about it. So that's a pretty exciting event. So before I move on to a couple other just updates and projects, are there any questions?
I do have one question that came in here, actually two. The first one is from Rick, that from Taco Fiesta Restaurant at 120th Avenue in Lakewood, there is a nice trail that crosses the railroad, then goes south to the Macatawa River and follows it to a sudden dead end before Chicago Drive. On the south side of Chicago in Paw Park, there seem to be good trails, but they seem to be muddy and mucky. Will there be connection from Paw Park under or over Chicago Drive to connect with the trail that would lead to Taco Fiesta? All of this would be along the Mac River.
So maybe when we're done with the presentation, we can pull up a map and see. Okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then last fall, we discovered Pigeon Creek lighted trails. They are fantastic in the fall for night hiking. Will this continue each fall?
Yes, and we actually kept them on even after the winter. So even after our winter season, we kind of kept them on until the spring got lighter. So yes, it was, we just realized there's such a demand, and they're all LED lights. So it was really fairly inexpensive, and we changed our rules. Yes, and it was so well received, we'll in the long term try to consider if there are other parks where we could implement it in our kind of implement lighted trails in the evenings. Yes.
Okay, great. And then just a thank you, because we love hiking in our parks and like to know of new areas and new developments. And then a question as to if there is, what the best website is to find maps.
So it is and what I can do is I will put it in the chat. It is miottawa.org/parks. But I will
Say it again. I'll type it in.
Okay.
MI.
Ottawa
Uh-huh.
.org/parks.
Got it.
Yep. I have my presentation up on my primary screen, but before we're done, I'll throw that. If you don't get it, I'll throw it up.
It's out.
Excellent.
Jason, another question. You talked about the two individuals on your team, and I might have missed it. Places like Tunnel Park and others have staff that are collecting fees or maintaining the park, people mowing and so forth. Do those folks not report to you? Do they report to someplace other and elsewhere in the Ottawa County organization?
So, no, anybody who works in our parks works up the chain to me. So the two gentlemen in the picture, one of them was my direct report and then one of them was his subordinate. So yes, we have, they all, if they're in a park, they ultimately report up the chain to me, if that answers your question.
Yeah, so how big of a staff do you have to maintain all the facilities?
Well, it's not very many. So we have, I knew you were going to ask that. And
sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I will, I'll see if I can find the exact number of full-time. I don't have it on the top of my head. I don't have that number memorized. I apologize.
All right.
Yeah, so we have, let's see, you'd be surprised by we have about 20 full-time for the 7,000 acres. And then we have a couple part-time year-round permanent positions. And then the rest we do with seasonal. So what I call our operations maintenance staff are split up into 4 different regions or zones. So those then have 1 to 2 full-time staff. So those would be Lakeshore, the North region, East, South, yes, and then I work out of the county complex where the administrative offices are for the county, and then we have our nature education center at Hemlock Crossing. So
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question.
Fire away.
Do you have any print brochures listing parks, locations of the parks and the features of the parks? Or was that just all through the website you gave?
We do have a print brochure. It's rather dated. We have it scheduled for an update next year. So.
And how would I get one of those?
So we have them at our nature center or here at our administrative offices. We could also always get one mailed to you too, or we have them at several different libraries, or I saw one at Holland Charter Township yesterday. So they're out and about.
Great, thank you.
Jason, I have a question about the trail along Lakeshore.
Yes.
Who maintains that trail? It goes all the way up, and it does go through the consumer power plant along Lakeshore. And I know it's a great way to go up to Pine Bend Park, but you have to stay on the let's see, you have the little road connection from Crosswell, isn't it? Who maintains those trails?
Well, the various different public agencies who built it or own it.
Okay, it's not through your office. Do they coordinate with you in any way?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. So great trail systems here in Michigan, much further ahead than we were in Ohio. But one of the interesting things that I found is the coordinate, like you just pointed out, that there isn't a lot of coordination between entities. So even if I wanted, and what's surprising is even if I wanted to, it's kind of tough to track down who the different, it's not at our fingertips per se on who would be the point of contact to call at such and such and such and such. So we're actually, as we have little bits of time, we try to work on little things like that, but yeah. All right. We'll keep going. So a few other just updates on various projects that have been completed within just the past couple of years. And so Ottawa Sands happened partially before I got here, and then I had the privilege of completing the acquisition and master plan after I was here. So this was really quite a pretty phenomenal acquisition that was not on the radar by anybody up in the northwestern part of the county and part of that coastal dunes along Lake Michigan, as well as an anchor. I call it an anchor along the Greenway because it connects with the Grand River Greenway. And so it was acquired, partially acquired in 2018 in partnership with the Land Conservancy. They acquired half of it. We acquired half of it. Then we worked for an out-of-cycle trust fund grant, the first ever. So that's a state funding mechanism. So that's how significant of a property this is. The state allowed this grant cycle to happen out of cycle, and people came together and allowed this project to happen. And we did it in 2 phases. Acquired the first half in 2018. The Land Conservancy then acquired the second half and took out a loan and fundraised for it to cover that loan. And then we completed the second half of the acquisition with grant funding in 2019. And I was lucky enough to get to close on that. So, and then late 2019, we started master planning for that. So comprehensive public input master plan process, and really looking at what could that park be. So it is an old sand mining site. So just a little over 350 acres. And we looked at, these are the different kind of areas that it looks at and splits it into a day use trailhead area with improved access. So really looking at improved access for all the public with a paved trail. Right now, it's really hard to get in there for anybody with any mobility issues. It really, you just can't get in there. And then some recreational opportunities for folks in a multi-purpose pavilion, a little beach access, nature play area, possible kayak or canoe rental, and then really looking at some restored natural areas. So we talked about the importance of kind of that Grand River area, looking at a dune prairie, marshes, some native landscapes, the pond, I call it pond, the lake. There's an 80-acre lake, really high water quality, but it's really low organic material in there. So it looks at pulling back those banks, creating natural areas along the banks and marshes, so it has much better habitat, much better ecology around that, and really much better natural areas. And then creating a river promenade, and then connecting in to the Idaho Explorers Trail, and creating this idea of an outfitted camping area. So with some outfitted camping, some tree houses and yurt villages. So, and as we look at Ottawa Sands and this whole coastal corridor, here's the Grand River in Grand Haven. The city of Grand Haven owns this property. Kitchelinquist Dune Preserve is here. So Ottawa County Parks already owns this property. The city of Ferrysburg owns this. It's Coast Guard Park. And then PJ Hoffmaster is here. So when this opportunity came about, it really just made sense and was so critical to connect it when you look at it on this large regional landscape level. And then now it kind of makes sense when we were talking about this coastal corridor study that we brought in Audubon and looking at this whole region and landscape level kind of ecological significance and that impact on all those wetlands and kind of coordinating that management and so this is the overall master plan. One important thing that I like to tell people, so all of this area is been mined. So it was all mined, all heavily disturbed and heavily mined, and has little to no natural significance. Although if you go out there now, people, it's very beautiful and very scenic. And part of what, when we undertook this process of master planning, when I come into the park and you stand at this corner, if you've been there, and this is why I tell people, it's actually a pretty easy walk to get to that corner. And anybody I bring in from out of town, I take there because you can get there really quickly, and it is breathtaking. And I actually have a hard time putting it into words, that experience, and it's moving to me. And so one of the things we told the consultant was there's some experiences that happen when you're at this park that as we do the planning process that we need to protect. And understanding that value and those view sheds and kind of those experiences, we want to enhance the access, enhance the natural features, design for better public access and design to enhance the natural features, but protecting those experiences. And we really feel like this did that. So out of the 350 or so acres, less than 8% of it is developed. And we've restored more of it than gets developed. So that's important, as I tell people, because we talk about a lot of the exciting developments with this plan and a lot of the exciting things that are going to happen there. But there are some natural features that are going to be improved or enhanced with this project that that are really pretty neat. And it's important to remind people that it's a whole mining site, and we're improving much more than will be disturbed. So yes, so we'll kind of move on. So this is a blow up of, here's the Grand River, and this is that large kind of area that had a large part of the mining area that all was just right now it's a grassy area, it has really little significant value. So it'll be some improved dunal prairie marshes with interconnected trail systems, and it'll connect in, and this will be a small beachfront area as well as a little potential pavilion within a nature play area. This as well will be an open lawn area. So if people have a wedding or an activity here at the riverfront, this could be an activity area. It could also be a place for us to have a community event, host a triathlon, a farmer's market. It could be almost anything, could be in this area. So a little bit larger of a green space intentionally planned there. So this is what we call our outfitted camping area. And then this is our greenway camping area. So we have a connection with the river. And so we have a blow up. Well, our next spot will be so this is the phase one. As you come in up at the front of the park, this is our day use trailhead. So this is you come in here, this will be an improved access. This is that point I was talking about. So it'll be an improved access to allow everybody to have that view out over the lake with a little restroom building and some improved parking. And then the trail system that will go down and connect in with the waterfront. This is the view facing south towards the river, the beach area, kind of those wetlands again, and then the riverfront. This is another view of that outfitted camping area in the river area here, as well as here's our universally accessible kayak launch. And this is a boardwalk along the Sag. So these are our outfitted, what we call our outfitted camping. As we were going through the planning session, there had all along been a conversation about some sort of camping. Originally in one of the early concept plans, there was an idea of an RV campground, and it really wasn't well received. But we felt like there was an opportunity to have some sort of camping. And we really know with the Greenway, there's opportunities to have camping, you know, all along the Greenway in different spots for paddlers or bikers from Grand Rapids along our different destinations, with this being a possible anchor with some rustic camping, but also this unique types of outfitted camping. And we had these concept ideas in the early designs, and one of our partners got really excited when they saw those early concepts, and were eager to see the Parks Commission approve the designs. And not long after we approved the designs, we received checks for both the Treehouse Village as well as the Yurt Village. So both of those have been fully funded now. And now we just have to figure out how to build all the infrastructure to get back to these. So those are still several years off into the future, but the funds are with our Ottawa County Parks Foundation for the future. So that will be an exciting project to come. So, and then this will be the river promenade. So this is facing west towards the park from the river. There's some existing infrastructure from the sand mining days. These are the piers that the big boats anchored to, and then they loaded the sand on them. They were called breasting dolphins. And so those are built into the plan, and we're retaining those. And then you can see the bank is stabilized. So there's some restoration with the bank. In a plaza area, these are a bigger plaza with a fairly large 200, I think, or 250 size pavilion area. And what's, you know, as I tell people about this, it's important to remind people. So the outfitted camping, which was on the previous slide, this all is to the north. This is in a bowl. So there was this area, and it's all in a bowl. So this is, you won't be able to see this area from the river promenade and vice versa. And you won't be able to see the field or the beach area from either spot. As we look, and if we go back to that original concept plan, so the river promenades here and their dunes, and all this will be kind of hidden out of view from these other areas. This is all in a bowl. This is where the sand mining operation had their washing area, and they had the wash out, and it drained out into the river. And so this, all this camping area is hidden from anybody else in the park. And it's kind of this private remote area in there that unless you're up and see and look down in there, you would never know it's kind of there. So it's a really interesting, unique design of the park. So another fun project that is coming along. Well, let's go back. Does anybody have any questions on Ottawa Sands before I move on? So I'd be happy to.
So Jason, we've walked that the dunes, the Ottawa Sands a couple different times. That's a really extensive plan. What do you think the time frame is? I'm assuming this is a multi-year effort to do all this development.
I would say it's decades. So, so the first phase one is what we call it is, and I apologize, I should have had that. I realized my slides were a bit out of order. So when we talk about, so this is the day use areas here, phase one, and it's this is initial. So it would be an application. I'm in 2021 right now. So I think the application would be next year for 2023 funding. And that is this. So, and then I don't have anything, and it's only partial funding. So I would have to do some fundraising. And then I don't have any more money in my 5-year projected budget for any of the other construction other than what my foundation has. So we have possibilities for fundraising or doing some capital projects through fundraising, or potentially doing a bond, because of those funds sitting in our foundation, with the camping and the possibility that in conjunction, but none of that has been vetted or considered. So it is to look at the development of this as a whole is in the tens of millions of dollars. And like I said, this phase one, which would include this day use parking, a small restroom, and then the trail around here, that's what we have in the next 5 years. Anything else would be more than 5 years out. So yeah. Good question. We do, but some of the natural resources restoration, we talked about the Audubon report. So part of that Audubon report then, through that Audubon report, they, as partners now, have worked with us in conjunction to start a grant with SOGL, Sustain Our Great Lakes, to start some of this restoration work, which is really exciting because that's really our focus, right? Some of the cool, right? We get excited about some of the infrastructure because it's kind of cool and flashy, but and we think we're really excited because it looks like it's going to get funded. So and it's all from some of that work that we did on that, kind of pulling that information together to show the significance, ecological significance of this area in this whole corridor. So great question.
Thank you.
I do have one question that came in the chat, not related so much to this, but just if you know which bike trail has the longest stretch of natural area that doesn't pass through residential or commercial areas and where that would be accessible.
I will think of that. I know where it will be when it's, well, I know where it will be when it's complete. When it's complete, it will be in the Bend area and it will be over 9 miles long. I'll have to think about what's currently built.
Okay.
I might ask somebody for that advice. Because that is one of the, right, that's one of our challenges right now, is so much of it comes in and off of parks. But once the segment that runs from the end of North Cedar to Eastmanville and like 68th up into the, what do we call that? The Eastmanville Allendale segment. That will be a really incredible segment, but that will be one of our last because we have to run it through a big part of the state property that we have to secure different easements and properties on both sides and then get permits through the state and surveys. So it'll be one of our last parts of that project.
Got it.
But I'll work on getting, I'll see if I can think through that.
Okay. All right, it is 11:15, so if some of you need to go, we understand. If there are other questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Jason.
And I think I just had a few more quick slides. They're just updates on different projects we have going on. So this is another, there was a funded project from a supporter. This is at Grand Ravines, a tree house that will connect in with the trail system, and it will be an elevated platform that goes out into the woods. And it was fully funded by a donor. And we're working on designs and actually working on the soil borings and kind of engineering to make sure it can be anchored and will be stable once it's built. So right now, so going through that process and how deep those anchors have to be. So that will be an exciting project. And we're hoping to have that under construction yet this year. This is another project that is a trust fund project. It is, if anybody's been to Stearns Creek, this is an acquisition project that we have a trust fund award. So Stearns Creek is one of our most diverse parks in all of our park system. And so this would acquire this 28 acres on the north side of the watershed. So we own this highlighted in green, and it would protect that north side of that. So we have a willing seller, and we're just working on the final kind of closing documents. And I'm actually optimistic that we have a donor who might help participate with donating the match as well. So we're working through that. And just a little bit about our partners. There might be somebody we might know in this picture, and our Ottawa County Parks Foundation and our community engagement. And what is community engagement? And I have a quick, one more video talking about how we reach people.
Hi, I'm Jessica Gregory, and this is my EcoBuzz. If you've ever hiked a forested path, paddled a spring-fed stream, dipped for tadpoles, or searched for salamanders, then you understand the value of nature education.
And you know, it's not just about relaying knowledge, it's about igniting curiosity, creating memories, and having fun. And most importantly, it's about raising up the next generation of nature conservation advocates. The spring of 2020 marked the 10-year anniversary of Ottawa County's Nature Center. Nestled on the banks of the Pigeon River within Hemlock Crossing County Park, the Nature Center is a true gem when it comes to nature education.
From nighttime owl prowls and woodcock walks to guided paddles down the Pigeon River, the Nature Center offers something for everyone. Outdoor experiences range from classroom field trips, recreation opportunities, nature programs for all ages, and summer camps.
Beyond these great programs, what has drawn the thousands of visitors here in the 10 years since it first opened?
The center is situated at the end of a beautiful drive through a restored wetland and meadow area. The building itself is LEED certified, and its vaulted ceilings and huge windows make visitors feel as though they're a part of the great outdoors. You can take a seat in the wildlife den and watch unnoticed as a variety of birds, squirrels, and occasionally other critters scurry or flutter around in the nature viewing area. There are lots of hands-on activities for the little ones to touch and explore too. Learn the cultural and ecological history of Michigan and the Pigeon River through the many exhibit displays, accompanied by nature artifacts and original artwork pieces throughout the center.
On chilly winter days, visitors can even be seen partaking in a cup of hot cocoa or cider as they warm up before the huge fieldstone fireplace here in the Great Room.
And this is all just inside the Nature Center. Outside at Hemlock Crossing are over 6 miles of trails to explore. A kayak launch conveniently beckons visitors to the water, and snowshoe rentals are available in the winter, providing opportunities for all seasons. Have questions about something you've spotted on the trail? Stop in at the welcome desk and a friendly naturalist can provide assistance.
Nature is meant to be experienced and explored, and I'm grateful for Ottawa County's Nature Center, who is committed to helping as many people as possible do just that. The Nature Center is celebrating 10 years of not just nature education, but 10 years of
children and families spending time outdoors, 10 years of supporting nature conservation, 10 years of inspiring nature investigation,
and 10 years of investing in the future of Michigan's natural resources. Will you join me in looking forward to many more? Thanks for watching. Happy naturing.
The making of this video was sponsored by the Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Commission.
All right. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thanks, Jason. Anybody else have any other questions for Jason before we go? Makes me want to get away from this desk and get outside ASAP. It's a beautiful day. Hope you all do too. Kay, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Do you want to wrap us up?
Well, I just want to thank Jason for giving this presentation and telling us that you not only have a great park system, but you're planning for the future. It's great.
That was awesome, inspiring.
Thank you very much.
So there were a couple hands up there. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I know Couch asked his question. Anybody else?
Okay. And one of the things I would just say, we are in the next year to 18 months, we'll be working on strategic planning. We'll kind of, as we've talked about, we'll look at a lot of what we talked about. We'll look at the past 30 or so years of where we've come from, where we are, look at a lot of the trends, work with our planning department on kind of populations, where the growth is, and really analyze where we want to be in the next 30 years. And kind of analyze, right, what do the parks mean to the community and quality of life, and kind of form some strategies moving forward in the future, because we had this great vision of that 7,000 acres, and we're there. And so we've done this amazing job, you know, but we're still the fastest growing county in the state. We have the fastest growing township in the state. But where do we want to be in 30 years? And we kind of have this opportunity, unique opportunity, to take some time and consider that and kind of refocus and yeah, So
Awesome.
check
Big
back in.
questions. Big questions. Thank you so much. It was great. Great photos, great videos, great presentation. We appreciate it so much. Thank you. We're very blessed beyond reason. I hope everybody can enjoy the parks this summer, and thanks for being with us today. I hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.